Hi, and welcome to our podcast. And this week at London Visited, we go to St James's Park to tell you about this wonderful part of London. My name is Steve, and each week I'll bring to you the facts, history, and information about different parts of this great capital. If you've been to London, are planning on visiting, live here, or just love London from afar, then this is the podcast for you. Don't forget our YouTube channel, London Visited, to see videos covering this place and so many others across London. And now, to this week's podcast. St James's Park is a 57-acre park in the city of Westminster, in central London. It is at the southernmost tip of St James's area, which was named after a leper hospital dedicated to St James the Less. It is the most easterly of a near-continuous chain of parks that includes, moving westward, Green Park, Hyde Park and Kensington Gardens. The park is bounded by Buckingham Palace to the west, the Mall to the north, Horse Guards to the east and Birdcage Walk to the south. It meets Green Park at Queen's Gardens with the Victoria Memorial at its centre, opposite the entrance to Buckingham Palace. St James's Palace is on the opposite side of the Mall. The closest underground stations are St James's Park, Green Park, Victoria and Westminster. The park is Grade 1 listed on the Register of Historic Parks and Gardens. The park has a small lake, St James's Park Lake, with two islands, West Island and Duck Island, the latter named for the lake's collection of waterfowl. A resident colony of pelicans have been a feature of the park since a Russian ambassador donated them to Charles II in 1664. While most of the birds' wings are clipped, there is a pelican who can be seen flying to the London Zoo in the hopes of another meal. The blue bridge across the lake gives a fantastic tree-framed lake west towards Buckingham Palace. Looking east, the view also includes the Swire Fountain to the north of Duck Island. Past the lake, the grounds of Horse Guards Parade, with Horse Guards and the Old War Office and Whitehall Court behind. To the south of Duck Island is the Tiffany Fountain on Pelican Rock. And past the lake is the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, with the London Eye, the Shell Tower and the Shard behind. The park has a children's playground, including a large sandpit. In 1532, Henry VIII purchased an area of marshland, through which the Tyburn flowed, from Eton College. It lay to the west of York Palace, acquired by Henry from Cardinal Wolsey. It was purchased in order to turn York Palace, subsequently renamed Whitehall, into a dwelling fit for a king. On James I's accession to the throne in 1603, he ordered that the park be drained and landscaped, and exotic animals were kept in the park, including camels, crocodiles, an elephant and exotic birds kept in aviaries. While Charles II was in exile in France under the Commonwealth of England, he was impressed by the elaborate gardens at the French royal palaces, and on his accession he had the park redesigned into a more formal style, probably by the French landscaper André Mollet. A 775 metre by 38 metre canal was created as evidenced in the old plan. The king opened the park to the public and used the area to entertain guests and mistresses, such as Noel Gwynn. The park became notorious at the time as a meeting place for impromptu acts of lechery, as described by John Wilmot, 2nd Earl of Rochester, in his poem A Ramble in St James's Park. In the late 17th and early 18th centuries, cows grazed on the park, and milk could be bought fresh at the Lactern, described by Zacharias Conrad von Offenbach in 1710. The 18th century saw further changes, including the reclamation of part of the canal for Horse Guards Parade, and the purchase of Buckingham House, now Buckingham Palace, at the west end of the Mall, for the use of Queen Charlotte in 1761. Further remodelling in 1826 to 1827, commissioned by the Prince Regent, later George IV, and overseen by the architect and landscaper John Nash, saw the canal's conversion into a more naturally shaped lake, and formal avenues rerouted to romantic winding pathways. At the same time, Buckingham House was expanded to create the palace, and Marble Arch was built at the entrance, whilst the Mall was turned into a grand processional route. It opened to public traffic 60 years later in 1887. The Marble Arch was moved to its current location at the junction of Oxford Street and Park Lane in 1851, and the Victoria Memorial was erected between 1906 and 1934. So, I hope you've enjoyed our in-depth look at St James's Park. Whatever podcast service you use to listen to this, please do subscribe to get updates on new shows, and please leave us some feedback. Please also let me know any places you'd like us to feature in future podcasts by emailing me directly at londonvisited@gmail.com. Or you can contact us on Twitter and Instagram on @LondonVisited or Facebook on @TheLondonVisited. Thanks for listening and really hope you've enjoyed our podcast, and we'll see you soon in the next one. Bye.